So we're going to talk about the Sony ZV-1F and the settings that you should set on this thing, and the menu settings that you should set up so that they're easy to access in case you need to change certain settings. So let's get started. So one of the first things you need to do is get one of these little tiny remotes. This is the Adelan, you can see it right here, mainly because of that C1 button. There's a C1 button, which is a custom button. And the reason why I say you need that is if you use this camera for doing vlogs or doing shots at home and you want the background to be blurred out, most people know that whenever you set this to f2.0 or it's in the automatic mode, the f2.0 gives you a blurred background, but the focus kind of shifts in and out from your subject a lot. It kind of shoots in and out, and you'll start getting blurred shots. So what you do is you, the C1 button, you go right here into custom key settings under the camera. You can change the middle button to background defocus. So you can see right there, the middle button is background defocus now. And the reason why is we're going to use the defocus button on the top as the C1 because this button right here is the default C1 button. So now that we have that set as the defocus, we're going to go to the setting for that, the old defocus button on the top. And we're going to change that to autofocus manual focus selector toggle. And you can see it right there. And what that does is that sets up this C1 button to toggle autofocus and manual focus on and off. So what happens is when you set this camera up aiming at you and you have it on autofocus and you have it all set up, you got the defocus in the background, it's all set up the way you want it, you hit the C1 button so that the manual focus kicks in, and then it will be fixed on you. It won't be focusing in and out. It'll be on manual focus at that point and it'll be set. And what you generally do is you flip the screen open, you set the camera up, and then you make sure that you're in focus for your shot, the background's defocused, hit the button to set manual focus, and it'll set the focus to where it was right then and there. It won't move on you anymore. So that's what keeps it from going in and out. And that's the problem with the f2.0 is it makes the focal length too small and the camera keeps searching for a focus spot. So that's a very important setting. Now the other settings, go to your My Menu 1 and 2 areas and start setting up My Menu items. So you can see on here, My Menu 1, I have grid line display on and off. That way I can quickly access that configuration and turn it on and off if I need to. I got the product showcase, so I can set up the product showcase on and off real quick at this spot too. And I generally don't use the product showcase, but I might, So right now I have it set off, and it's just nice to have it on this menu to turn it on and off. Subject recognition and autofocus on and off. Again, I always have it on, but I like to have it in this menu so it's easy to access. And the auto power off temperature. So that I have set on high because we don't want this camera turning off while we're doing some filming. And the volume setting. Now the reason why I have the volume setting set here is when I have a lavalier mic hooked on here or the top boom mic on here, it has different volume settings that I set up for this. So in the general, as you can see on my camera, I have a little sticker that it's a piece of paper with a piece of tape over it. And that tells me my configuration. So when I'm generally shooting, I shoot at f3.2. It doesn't blur the background much, very, very little, but f3.2 makes it so that when I'm in the autofocus mode and I'm doing my shots outside, it's not going to lose focus on me. It's got a wider zone for focal length, and it won't lose the focus on me. So I can do all my shots. I can have this thing set up on a tripod, and it's never going to lose me in the focal shot. So that's a good setting. And then I write down lavalier volume 9 on the side. And the reason why I do that is so that I will remember that's my setting I like to use for the lavalier mic. Another thing is, if we look here, I have aspect ratio. Now, every setting that I have on this menu setting is settings that I had to change by the default settings. So the default settings were something else, and I had to change it to these settings, and that way I have it on here when I need it. Shoot mode, I leave it on aperture priority, and the reason why I do that is everything else is pretty good. The autofocus is pretty good. Everything shoots pretty nice, but if I set the aperture priority, I can change my aperture from the f2.0 to f3.2, and as you can see, I already have it set for that, and then it gives me a nice focal shot. So that's the reason why I set it here. And here's a big one. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree on this because you bought the camera because it has a touch screen monitor. Turn that touch screen monitor off. It is annoying because these cameras are so small that anytime you flip the screen out, you touch the screen, you're going to touch one of these settings and you're going to change it. And then this camera is going to really annoy you. So turn the touch screen off and just get used to using the toggles. The toggles are really easy to use, but turn that touch screen off because you're going to be opening the screen. You're going to touch the screen somewhere. It's going to change your configurations. You're not going to know it changed, and now you have a horrible shot because you touched one of the little buttons on the screen. So turn that monitor touchscreen to off. It's just going to save you so much headaches. And I know you bought a camera with a touchscreen, but again, it's going to drive you nuts, doing that, because you can see I am not changing any settings. I can touch this all I want. The only things I have to make sure I don't touch is the spots over here, and with this little attachment, I'm not going to be touching anything. Now, if you'll see the attachments I got on here, this is a nice camera mount down here, and I have this. It basically makes the camera a little bigger. It's an attachment on the bottom. It's just a big piece of aluminum that makes the camera a little bigger to hold in your hand. And when you have a camera, you want something a little more bulky to hold. So that's what that's for. And then the camera tripod holder, it kind of gives me a little grip too. So it's really nice thing to bulk it up a little bit. Now this lens cover, if you see this is a must-have. So there's an adapter ring, and I'll show you it. So this is a adapter ring that will set up a little hood, so you can screw it onto your Sony ZV-1F, and you screw that on there, and now you have a nice hood that's going to help the sun stay out of your camera lens so you don't get that weird flash thing. So that's the reason why I have this on there. Nice hood. It's not too big. As you can see, it's just a little bit of a hood on there. But again, nice to have it. Nice and sturdy. It came with a little lens cap. So nice little hood for it. It works out pretty good. So that's the configurations on here, and like I said, I'll show you this real quick. If you look on the back, right now I'm at f2.0, and because I'm at aperture priority, I can turn my wheel and I can turn that to 3.2. Now 3.2 is the one I really like because it makes a wider focal zone. When I'm shooting outside, I'm shooting myself, this keeps me from coming in and out of focus. So it keeps that weird focus thing happening. So it keeps a nice focal spot. So I always set it on f3.2. Now, like I said, if I'm doing a shot inside, I would flip this open. I'm going to change it back to toggle it back to f2.0, so you can see f2.0 at the bottom. And then I'm going to aim it at myself, and I'm going to hit the C1 button. So once I aim it at myself, I got my focal spot. Now I hit the C1 button, and it's set the focal spot. So if I aim this camera anywhere else, the focal spot isn't going to change on it. It's not going to shift in and out anymore because I hit the C1 button. It set the focus to manual, and now the camera is not going to change. So I could set this thing up in front of me, and as long as I'm staying in that focal spot, it's going to keep me in a good shot the entire time. If you need to change it, you hit the C1 button again, and then you can change your focal spot again, and then hit the C1. It's going to set the focus and spot, and you're all set. That's a couple tips and tricks for the Sony ZV-1F. Like I said, this is a really good camera. I really like it. It takes a couple little tiny tricks to make this thing really, really work and really shine. And once you do those couple things, it works great. It's a great, great camera. It's great for vlogging. It's great for even daily shooting, because I know you don't have a lens that can change focal length, but you can move the camera around. You can change things. You don't need, you don't have to have a camera that has a focal change. You can do a lot with this camera. So that's it for this episode. And you like what we're doing, please subscribe, and we'll see you next episode.